Earlier this year, the Mailed Fist Journal was released, which coincided with the release of the plastic Fellblade, Glaive and Falchion kit. We've got some new Exemplary Battles covering the first battle of Paramar 5, the Siege of Protesh and the Purging of Taral 3, and some Leviathan Missions, which are used specifically for big battles of super heavy vehicles. We've also got rules for the much anticipated Legion Whirlwind, which has recently been made available to pre-order at the time of filming, as well as some new battlefield assets. The Fist of the Legions. Since their inception, the Legionnaire Astartes have marched alongside colossal machines of war. As tactical doctrines evolved during the Great Crusade, near indestructible super heavy tanks became icons of the battlefield. Capable of engaging entire companies single-handedly, these gargantuan assets encapsulated the Space Marine tenets of resilience and overwhelming firepower. They served various roles, from specialised siege weapon carriers and Titan-threatening tank destroyers to standard line-anchoring battle tanks, with most tracing their origins back to mankind's golden age. The STC system, one of the most enduring legacies of the Dark Age of technology, was the standard template construct system. Carried aboard colony ships, these data systems maintained a consistent, compatible and transferable level of high technology across human-settled worlds, providing blueprints for everything from communication arrays to vast power plants. However, when the Age of Strife fractured humanity's galactic empire, divergence ran rife. Isolated civilizations adapted, creating new systems or fusing STCs with Xenos technology. Tragically, many STC systems were lost to conflict, accidents or decay over thousands of years. Following the unification of Terra, the nascent Imperium required an unprecedented surge in arms production for the upcoming Great Crusade. Sounds a bit like a lad's holiday. The Emperor's War Council turned to reliable STC templates, though many were incomplete fragments pieced together from incompatible data stores. A major breakthrough occurred when the Mechanicum granted Terra access to vast manufacturing facilities and long-lost STCs. Among these were the Land Raider, rediscovered by techno-archaeologist Arkan Land, which saw widespread Legion deployment due to its ability, weapon flexibility and all-terrain versatility. The Great Crusade became an era of technological rediscovery. Lost or adapted STC systems were reclaimed, either willingly or by force during compliance. Whilst much was lost to the fires of war, this period heralded a technological dawn, allowing the Imperium to study, replicate and mass-produce advanced colony adaptations across its forge worlds. The term super heavy vehicle was a broad colloquial designation applied to any asset exceeding a certain tonnage. Hashtag your mum. Though not strictly technological. I've been on my own for too long. Right, okay. Though not a strict technological classification, these massive war machines were widely available during the early years of the Crusade. As the Great Crusade expanded, Legiones Astartes increasingly deployed without the Imperial Army to support. To maintain their signature rapid deployments and shock assaults, the Space Marines required independent, high-performance assets. They needed vehicles that offered a perfect balance of firepower, speed and durability, outperforming standard mainline assets like the reliable Kratos, which could be deployed entirely at a Legion's own discretion. Enter Argonos Crown. Senior Magos Argonos Crown of Phaeton became a renowned architect of armoured vehicles, decoding ancient STCs and accelerating production for the expeditionary fleets. Many prototypes emerged during the Great Crusade, including the early Falchion. Let's take a closer look at the Fellblade. As one of the earliest super heavies, the Fellblade is a renowned all-rounder combining potent firepower with a resilient chassis. Its design history was fraught. Magos Crown's final proposal faced fierce opposition from 4 rival Forge World. A prototype deadlock ensued, marred by workshop accidents and data losses, and the death of 2 competing project leader, which kind of sounds like modern corporate. Ultimately, a single design compatible with the Baneblade STC was chosen. Its sloped, layered plating of the Fellblade matched the resilience of the Baneblade, but at a much lower overall weight. The tank is powered by an atomantic arc reactor, granting near infinite operational duration. However, it is rumoured the power plant was chosen so that there would be a long-term reliance on the Mechanicum for maintenance. Let's hope they paid for an extended warranty. The main armament, a twin accelerator cannon, features a rapid reloading mechanism with pinpoint accuracy. Iron Hand crews have famously been recorded using fell blades to snipe Titan cockpits at extreme ranges. The barrels can fire independently for a high rate of fire or simultaneously for a single devastating payload. Secondary weapons include a demolisher cannon, a twin-linked heavy bolter, and quad las cannons with the options for laser destroyers or Gravis heavy bolter arrays. In terms of stats, the Fellblade is movement 10 and ballistic skill 4, armour facings of 14, 13 and 12 with 18 hull points. The Fellblade accelerator cannon has two fire modes, HE and AE. The HE shell is range 100, one shot, strength 8, AP3, damage 2, large blast and stun 2. The AE shell is also range 100, one shot, strength 12, AP2, damage 3, small blast and ordnance D, meaning damage 6 if it remains stationary. The fire modes, however, are situational, where you're more likely to fire at troops with a 3-up armour save or even elite units such as Terminators, owing to damage 2. When you consider the big up in the narrative of the tank and the weapons design, it does feel a little bit underwhelming on the tabletop, especially for a 650 point model. In my mind, one of the shells should perhaps have been a 7-inch template as a minimum, or perhaps the option to fire twice, at least to justify the points value of the model. As an aside, in this section of the journal on page 11, if you're interested, it mentions Eldari, and I think this is one of the first times I think I've seen the word used in a Horus Heresy publication, specifically a journal in any case, and I kind of felt a bit sick, and I wonder if the authors did too. I think we'll continue using the word Eldar. Thank you. Moving on. The Legion Glaive. Primarily used in environments where the foe had overwhelming numerical superiority, the Volkite carronade was able to destroy vast swathes of enemy infantry and sweeping beams of burning energy. Fire the laser. Originally unpopular owing to its long barrel and Volkite weaponry being notoriously difficult to maintain, it still proved popular for Salamanders, Dark Angels and Iron Warriors. Interestingly, it stated that the Demolisher Cannon was not deemed to be necessary by the Salamanders when they were testing it, which, let's be honest, is absolute nonsense and would be much better than the twin heavy bolter Cupula claiming to be better used for target acquisition. Trust a Salamander to give that feedback. The Iron Warriors would have pushed for 2 Demolishers. The amended dome turret design is however distinctive and arguably perhaps one of the best, replacing with Volkite capacitors needed to charge the weapon system and allow for venting in emergencies. One cool fact is the notable lack of commanders and gunners cupula hatches. Due to the dangerously high levels of radiation and heat, crews relied solely on external targeting, cameras and scopes. Interestingly, Big E, the Emperor, demanded the technology be made available during the Great Crusade, rarely deployed outside the Collegia Titanica. When fired, the carronade would typically only have sufficient power to deploy a beam for a short period. However, experienced crews were able to scythe through whole ranks of troops. The impact would be exacerbated in combination with the deflagration, where entire enemy formations could be burned to ash in a single sweeping shot. In terms of stats, the Glaive comes in at 650 points with the Volkite carronade, a hull-mounted twin heavy bolter and 2 sponson las cannons. The carronade is range 45, so it's extremely short ranged, 12 shots, strength 8, AP 3, damage 2 with the deflagrate special rule, meaning any unsaved wounds generate an additional strength 8 wound on the unit. I'd be tempted to lean into an anti-infantry role for the Glaive with its 6 shots, hull twin heavy bolter and 2 Gravis heavy bolters, which would put out an additional 16 shots with suppressive 2. However, I'd want to ensure my army had a way of dealing with anti-tank, as 650 points is a lot of points just to kind of shoot at tactical squads. The Legion Falcon is a dedicated super heavy tank destroyer designed to hunt down the largest battlefield threats. Originally based on the Shadow Sword, its earliest iterations were armed with the Volcano Cannon, a variant that largely vanished by the outbreak of the Horus Heresy. However, it does make a perfect aesthetic choice for pre-Heresy armies. Its centerline weapon is positioned low within the chassis, providing a significantly more stable firing platform than other super heavy vehicles. Combined with a redesigned alloy armour that reduces overall weight, this structural balance grants improved manoeuvrability, allowing the Falchion to actively hunt down enemy units rather than relying on static ambush tactics. Unlike typical single-beam neutron laser systems, the Falchion's twin-beam neutron wave cannon, it's a mouthful, fires alternating pulses of destructive energy. The devastating payload batters the heaviest armour plating, completely disabling any electrical systems left intact by the initial strike. However, this immense power comes at a cost. Despite the Falchion's heavy protective shielding, crews still suffer from radioactive feedback. Consequently, their operational lifespans are drastically reduced, necessitating regular augmentic reconstruction. The Falchion comes in at 650 points. However, it is the least versatile variant in terms of secondary armaments, boasting access only to its primary neutron wave cannon and sponsor las cannons. The neutron wave cannon has a range of 120 inches, 2 shots, strength 12, AP2 and damage 4. It also has Ordnance D, meaning it becomes damage 8 if it remains stationary, and it has armor bane, and it has shock stunned. Interestingly, despite the risk of radioactive feedback, it does have the option to purchase a pintle weapon. Having Ordnance D is a game changer, however the tank only really comes into play if both shots hit. The vehicle's ballistic skill 4, so chances are one of the shots is going to miss, and there's always going to be that inevitable roll of a 1 to penetrate, especially against AV-14 targets. There's also a good chance the target may have access to smokescreen reaction for a cheeky 5-up save. The one saving grace is that it has shock stun, so on a roll of a 5-up to hit, the target unit gains a status and would be snap shooting. In my mind, the unit really needs more shots, better ballistic skill, or the option to perhaps take an augury scanner. You know, it is a tank hunter after all. Controversially, in my mind, there are 3 better candidates: the Legion Vindicator siege tank with a laser destroyer, the Cerberus, perhaps slightly left field, the Thanatar Calyx. So the Vindicator comes in at 160 points, equipped with a Magna laser destroyer. Its range 36, 2 shots, damage 10, AP2, damage 3, but becomes damage 6 to Ordnance D, and it has armor bane. You could take 4 of these for the same price, and you'd have change. The Cerberus comes in at 400 points with a neutron laser, and you can take 2 las cannons. The neutron laser battery is 3 shots. 3 shots. Yes, you do run the risk of overloading, but you get 3 chances to hit. We all want to roll dice. It's 72-inch range, strength 10, AP2, damage 3. However, it also has Ordnance D, upping it to damage 6 if it remains stationary, with armor bane and shock suppressed. If you manage to not overload, you do actually have the opportunity to cause more damage than the Falchion, and you save 250 points. And the Cerberus can take smokescreen, as can the Vindicator. Lastly, Mechanicum. Slightly more complicated, but the Thanatar Calyx comes with a Solex Heavy Las and an accompanying Reductor Tech Priest armed with an augury scanner and a Cortex controller comes in at around 300 points. Thanatar can be boomed to ballistic skill 5, so it hits on 2s. It's 2 shots, strength 10 with armor bane, but it can become strength 11 owing to shenanigans in certain situations. The weapon is damage 2 with an Ordnance D, meaning it's 2 shots can end up having an output of damage 8. It also has the ability to react should it wish to do so. Take 2 of these, you're putting out a similar damage to the Falchion, and you're saving around 100 points. The Falchion and the Fellblade need to pay an additional 60 points to take a Jacurian Magna, unlocking the ability to overwatch or return fire, bringing these up to 710 points. Wow. Now, Super Heavies do have the rule of cool. They do make a fantastic centerpiece to any army, and mass formations would look cool as. However, they do seem to be overcosted and do not appear to live up to the reputation of overwhelming firepower on the tabletop, which for me is a crying shame. The Principia Bellicosa prescribed various super heavy tank organisational structures, ranging from standard formations to temporary task-orientated strike forces. As an example, the journal highlights the Iron Warriors CL 2nd Super Heavy Tank Company. This force is led by Command Fellblade, casual, supported by 3 additional Fellblades, also casual. Its specialised support elements include a second-in-command Kratos, a Master of Signals, 3 Whirlwind strike tanks, an Apothecarian detachment in a Rhino, and a reconnaissance squadron of 3 Predators. Tactically, the Predators with Scout ahead, while the heavy armour provides overwhelming fire support. However, the game subtext highlights that players only realistically need a Predator, a Whirlwind, and a Fellblade on the tabletop. As mentioned at the outset of the video, we have got 3 new exemplary battles covering the first battle of Paramar 5, the Siege of Protesh, and the Purging of Taron 3. Tying into Paramar 5, we've got the legendary mission, the Charge of the Calicorus, whereby a detachment of Iron Warrior Super Heavies ambushes, surprisingly, a detachment of Alpha Legion supported by Mechanicum forces. These short stories are so good, and I do look forward to playing this new mission. We've also got 3 Leviathan missions, which are essentially apocalypse multiplayer games, which use a combination of sector control and objectives for scoring. We've also got 2 new secondaries which have been introduced: Break Their Strength, meaning no vehicles left at the end of the game, and Overrun, which is for all intents and purposes line breaker, where you score VPs for being in the enemy deployment zone, which are both, quite cool. For these missions, we've also got a new Attacker Apex detachment comprising 3 Super Heavies, which don't count towards your 25% restriction, and a Leviathan Bastion of Fire Apex detachment for defenders comprising 3 support slots. These look a really fun new way of playing mega battles. Perhaps watch this space. The journal also covers battlefield assets, where players can select a number of assets depending on the point levels of the game being played. For example, up to 1500 points you can spend 2 asset points, and for games of 1501 points to 3500 you can spend 5 asset points. But what can we take? Well, there's quite a selection. Defenders can take tank traps for 1 asset point, essentially impassable terrain with a 60mm base, a neutron bomb, also 1 asset point. If a vehicle or walker are within 6 inches of the mine on a 4+, they gain a suppressed status. And lastly, we've got auto repair, auto glass replace, the servitor clade for 2 asset points. This is quite cool. It would benefit a static shooting vehicle army. At the start of the defender's subphase, any vehicles within 4 inch gain auto repair 4+. Nice. The attackers, however, can take shroud canisters for 1 asset point. This is actually really good, activated during the end phase. The canister can be activated and models within 3 inches gain a 4+ shroud, models within 6 inches gain a 5+ shroud, and models within 9 inches gain a 6+ shroud. It's kind of a bit like the old school field generator. We've also got a wayfinder device for 2 asset points. The kit bash in the journal is really cool, and I was really quite excited to see how this kind of model would work. However, simply allows models to move through cover during a single turn. It works and it's situational, but the model I think could have been something a bit more cooler in my opinion. Lastly, the much anticipated Whirlwind missile tank. It's going to set you back a whopping 100 points. However, you're going to take the Pyrax missiles for an additional 100 points? No, an additional 10 points, bringing it up to 110 points total. The main weaponry fires HE missiles with 48-inch range, 1 shot, strength 6, AP4, damage 1 using a large blast, and it has stun 1. However, the Pyrax shares the same range at 48 inches. It's only strength 5, AP5, damage 1, large blast. However, it does have panic 1. I see these as one of those low cost units that you use if you have a spare 100 points. However, I wouldn't be surprised to see these as a dedicated auxiliary or apex attachment in the future, where they get some boons and benefits. There we have it, folks, a deep dive into the Mailed Fist Journal. Let me know if this review inspires you in any way, whether you're going to get a Fellblade, a Glaive or a Falchion, and whether you've played any of the missions yet. Please do like and comment, and if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing. I'll see you in the next one. Tragically, can't even fucking say it. He nearly said Mankini like 10 times. The structural balance grants improved maneuverability. Leviathan. Sorry. Why am I correcting myself? Sorry. Dickhead.